Hey guys, so it's Bags here. I'm with Forrest from the Stock Block Masterclass team. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey? You know, how you got into trading, what brought you into this industry, just to get a feel for how you started.
Yeah, man. Yeah. About 8 years ago, I started investing kind of in the Warren Buffett method, right? Where I bought some Microsoft, some Tesla, some Nvidia, and so I just had this concept of just buy and hold stocks for 20 years, and fortunately for me, I was in a great rally where 10 years later, right, it's just been a bull market. And so fortunately, I just kind of held on to that, and that kind of started my journey, right? Where it made it very real that investment was a long term uh, viable option. And so what happened was, whenever I would get into options or I'd get into swing trading, I dabbled in a little bit of this, right? But none of it was ever very successful because I didn't have a good trajectory. I didn't have a really good game plan. I was just kind of utilizing very simplistic ideology of stocks to try and make a little bit of money on top of just long term. So for me, I really tried to stay away from day trading just because there was a lot of kind of hocus pocus stuff behind it. And I just knew so many people lost money. So it was never really a desire of mine to go down that road. And of course, like a lot of people, I was scrolling through Instagram. I saw a lot of different people with, flashy cars and Lambos and promising to double your money in a year kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And so I really never wanted to be a part of any of that, right? Because I just didn't, it just all seemed so Hollywood and so fake. And I can't remember exactly. I think a buddy of mine sent me Stock Clock's Instagram. And I noticed, man, there wasn't a single Lambo on there. There wasn't a single yacht. There wasn't a single jet. And that really gave me some excitement, right? Some viability that he could be the real deal. And so kind of just for the hell of it, I grabbed the Zoom course and I just kind of follow along and see what it was all about, right? I
So
just
it's the
wanted
live Zoom trading, right?
exactly right. So I got
Okay.
the live Zoom trading. I just grabbed it for a month, and I just wanted to see what it was all about, right? So I had my platform. I wasn't very comfortable with it, so it was more just kind of getting comfortable with the platform and really just seeing what you and seeing what Stelios saw in the market, right? And kind of saw in these candle wick things that I just looked at these long term multi year graphs and I saw trends, right? And I saw there was fundamentals in the stock. And for the first month, yeah, man, I just did a demo account. I kind of just I followed along. I watched what kind of price action or theory or just even what the heck, how you guys were even entering and exiting trades, right?
Hmm.
And so during this time, I had a full time job. So I was partially in, partially out, but I did it for a full month and I was very consistent with it. And I started seeing some validity to what was happening. And from there, I wanted to know a little bit more, right? So I went to the Discord. I went ahead and grabbed the masterclass, and for me, it's one of those things where I didn't have a ton of hope. I mean, just in pure honesty, right? Like
Hmm.
I was going to go into this thing, and if I lost $1,000, I lost it, right? And it was cool, man. I started seeing the community of Discord, and I kind of started seeing how there was this connection between everybody, and how people would help each other, and how people kind of saw that there was multiple ways to pursue this, and there wasn't just one. And I really enjoyed the fact that whenever I started digging down into the master course, that there's a lot of information on there, right?
Hmm.
And so for me, I'm always kind of a less is more kind of guy, right? So what I did was I just stuck with the SL1 and the SL15, and I just honed in on those for probably about 2 months straight, right? I started dabbling into the SL3, the SL10, but I think, like I said, less is more. I started kind of like clouding my mind a little bit and having too much information. So then I took off all these indicators on my charts. I cleaned them all up. I didn't have 900 different lines going everywhere, right? I just said it was very simple. And when I just oversimplified everything and also followed along with the Zoom and the Discord, I started seeing these patterns, and I started seeing how these things started working, right?
Yeah.
And it was weird. It was kind of mind blowing for me, right? Because it was just so strange that these simple, very kind of easy things, right, were working over and over and over. And of course, early on in the journey, I was trying to trade 2 minute. I was trying to trade these high frequency. I was trying to follow you. I was trying to follow him. And of course, I didn't know what I was doing. But it was helpful. It was very helpful to actually see that. And then when I slowed it all down, I got to the 5 minute, got to the 15 minute, and I could breathe in between setting up trades. And instead of looking at 27 stocks, I looked at 4, 5, 6, right?
Right.
It was momentum. I started building like this consistency, and that consistency felt really good. And when I started building that consistency, I started trading real money, but I never went in. I never started just trading account or money that would be detrimental if I lost, right? So I started literally trading $10 every time, and I mentally put on 2 zeros after that to make it feel like I was trading $1,000, just so I wasn't being kind of careless with it.
Right.
And so if I lost that $10, I took it hard because I wanted it to feel like I was losing $1,000 every trade. And if I gained that $10, I wanted it to feel like I was making $1,000 every trade, to really understand what the potential of scaling and what the potential of 1% account growth a day could really be. So last March, a mentorship was provided through the Discord. And this strictly honed in on one strategy, right? It was a very calm, a very, I don't want to say simple, but it took a lot of indicators away. It took a lot of the kind of mess and the fast pacedness out of the way. And I honed in on that for a whole month straight. And I started trading real account size, or something real for me that could potentially replace a 9-to-5 with the income that I was making. And what happened was there's a major learning curve in that month, right? But for that month, I was the most profitable I'd ever been, and it was consistent. And every week I was walking away with multiple R's, and it all really clicked for me. And I saw that this wasn't just a fluke or a happenstance, that this was a tool that could be used for longevity. And a lot of people that I saw would take 100 trades a day, 50 trades a day, trying to make 20, 30 times what they're risking.
Right.
And teach their own. I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's great. And if you can do that consistently, that's great. But for me, when I talk about scalability and I talk about this long-term thing, my goal is being able to make a few R a week and walk out at the end of the month with having 20 R or 20 risk factor units of what I risk. So if I risk 1% of my account, I can walk away with 20% growth in a month. And that's consistent. And that's very minimal in the reality. Because this previous month, I walked away in April. I went from 27 R in March, most profitable I've ever been. I walked away with almost 40 R in April.
That is amazing, man. Well done.
I appreciate it. Absolutely. And that's still with a ton of mistakes, right? And that's still with significant amount of education still needing to hone in on.
And this is using the strategy that we provided through the mentorship in the masterclass?
That's it. That's the only strategy I used. I started with the SL1, SL15. I was very consistent with that, right? But with the mentorship, I really got to see exactly what you two saw, right? So I got to see through a whole month of a very consistent platform where I didn't add in a bunch of extra noise into it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I just stuck with that, it was like exercising that muscle, right? Where I started to really understand that this was very real. And I've been doing this for 6 months now. And just this week alone, for 1 week into May here, and I'm walking away with almost 10R in this 1 week alone, doing one strategy, and it's still kind of confusing to me, to be real, because just I don't quite understand how this is happening.
It's the power of repetition, Forrest. That's what it is. It's finding something that has an edge and just sticking to it, and just doing it
But
over and over again. And I suppose you've also realized over all this time that we can't be focused and affected by the outcome of a single trade or a single set of trades. It's about, the combination of following the same actions over and over again. Rinse and
right,
repeat. Yeah.
right, and just building those muscles properly.
Yeah.
I really think that that was a big part of this, where instead of trying to start working out and get on the bench press and bench 200 pounds, right? Like I started out with just trying to bench press the bar, and it felt weird and it kind of felt like silly because I felt like I could do way more, but it built that foundation for me. And
That
and then adding a
consistency,
little
the consistency muscle, right?
e-
Yeah.
exactly, right? And not that it's all just repetition, absolutely, right?
Hmm.
But there's also that time of when the markets close. What do you do with your time, right? And that for me is the fact that that's what builds even more consistency, is the fact that you don't just stop when the market's done. It's like that's when it starts, right? And so doing doing back testing and doing just that extra mile, where being in the market's great, but even if you don't have time to be in the market, like when I was working my 9 to 5, and um, you know, the back testing and the ability that we have in today's age of having this potential to be able to buy a stock and sell a stock on your phone while you're in the grocery store. We have to really harness that and utilize it, because there's never been this potential before this, and the volume and the amount of liquidity in the market. I mean, there's just so much opportunity, and I feel like for years I've just been leaving so much money on the table, when that consistent ability to grow your account and the validity of it, right, has really shown and proven to me through the StockLock uh, master course and through the Zoom, and again, just seeing how both of you. I mean, this is y'all's day in, day out, and it's of course there's bad days, but the good days are the ones that really show that whenever you have something that majority, if not 80% of the time, I never want to say 90, right? Because that's a very scary number, because we're all human as well. We're not robots. But if you can have anything that works 80% of the time,
Even
and
even 75, right? Even
right,
75.
exactly. I mean, if you can, as a human, understand nothing's ever 100%, and you can get to this point where it's okay to lose money,
Hmm.
that's a very weird concept for a lot of people, right? And still very weird for me, because long-term investment, number one rule, don't lose money. And so with just buying and holding things, yes, but there's long-term growth in that, right? There's not a month-to-month sustainability of livelihood to that. So yeah, it's been a great journey. It's been really fun. I mean, again, I have plenty more time to go, but as far as just the past few months of really seeing that this is real, and I never expected to be at this place or to realize that,
Hmm.
um, but it's quite amazing, and especially with two people that are so supportive and helpful in the journey. I do really appreciate the fact that you two are very supportive, but also the community of Discord is very supportive with each other, and encouraging of each other. So it's there's proof is in the pudding, and there's some kind of magic going on here. But uh, eventually, we'll all be getting Lambos and yachts and private jets, but you don't have to post it online to prove that, right? So
Right.
that's the fun part of all this, and I respect y'all's humility and being humble with how great you guys are. So I do really appreciate it, and it has been really fun.
Thank you for those kind words, man. I really appreciate it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
you would recommend the masterclass of stock lock education to someone who's a complete beginner?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, I guess what I would tell somebody who's never touched a trading platform
Hmm.
would be to really hone in on the simplistic fact of being absorbed in a day in, day out, exercising that. Don't do it for a day, go for a week without it. Be consistent with it, but try not to just take on everything at once, right? And really hone in on the things that are simple and that you feel like you can take on yourself, and that's not overwhelming. And I really feel like that reality is there.
Hmm.
And if you can be kind of comfortable with the fact that you don't know everything, and you can humble yourself to the fact that you are learning a whole new trait or a whole new experience, I think you can expedite the fact that you can really take this and run with it quickly. And it doesn't have to be a multi-year journey of having to hop around to all these different strategies and all these different ways of trading. Really honing in on one or two things, mastering that, and just getting time in front of the charts, right? I think that's number one. And so I think that this
That's the
course
name
really,
of the game. Focus and prioritizing, being focused and disciplined and repetition and consistency, right?
yeah,
And not just discipline in following the rules, doing certain steps, but discipline in your emotions, right? Keeping
yeah.
your emotions intact, because I think that's one of the greatest difficulties that traders face is that emotional outbursts that they have, and they let it out on their trades, and that's what really hurts them. So we have to
Oh,
keep our
100%.
psychology intact, right? We
Yeah.
talk about that too in the masterclass. Um, but yeah, man, it's beautiful to see the opportunity that everyone can have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think honing in on that, being robotic, taking
Mhm.
emotions out. Personally, every single time I think I should do something and I
Right.
do it, it never works out, right? But I take all that outside thought process out, and I execute like a robot. That's what's happened over the past few months. It's really crazy, and I still can't quite wrap my head around it. But
You'll get
um,
used to it. You'll get used
yeah,
to it.
exactly. I'm sure.
Awesome, man. Well, it was great hearing from you. And keep crushing it, man. Keep crushing it. You're doing great. I feel like you're on the right path. And, that humbleness and determination that you have and consistency is going to pay off. It's going to pay off.
Absolutely.
All
Well,
right.
thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. My pleasure, man. Take care.
Take care.